it's a simple question. What's your view on the role of carbon credits? So clearly the technique that many organizations are using is simply, buy carbon, I offset it, I report that. I'm net zero, aren't I? Because I've bought enough carbon to offset the carbon I'm using. What's your...
Yeah, no, this is a really important area, Keith, at the moment. A lot of conversations going on around this. So, look, it's really clear that climate leadership is about firstly measuring what your footprint is, and setting a target and having a plan, a credible plan for reducing your emissions. And that's really the language of net zero. How do we reduce our emissions to the point that we don't have any, and that we do that in line with the science of the 1.5 degrees. But the challenge is that kind of reduction isn't going to solve the problem fast enough. More is needed. So that's where traditionally offsets have come in. So what businesses have done is they've purchased a carbon removal outside of their business to sort of offset the unavoidable emissions of their business. There's a few things happening to that. Firstly, there's a much clearer distinction now between what quality is in terms of offsetting and what greenwash is. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but what's acceptable to people. And the rush to quality is about carbon removal credits. So proving that, I have contributed to the removal of carbon from the atmosphere and the storage of it in a peat bog or a forest or a field in soil, what have you. So there's a science and a measurement to doing that now, which is really emerging, and that's a very exciting and very important area.
This is science-based net zero. Is that when we read that, that's essentially what that means?
Yeah, it's science-based, but it's the other thing that's coming out is the approach to this, to go from a kind of transactional forgiveness of sins, if you like, into looking at this and saying, how might we take a long-term position? So how might we engage with carbon removal projects, even technology to suck carbon out the air, or nature doing it for us? A long-term position, like a 10-year investment approach to this, so that we're really building not just reduction of carbon, but the removal of it.
So that's the question that executives and senior leaders should be asking if they're offsetting. Is this carbon removal? Is this verifiable carbon removal? Because carbon credits are getting very expensive, right? I mean, it's a increasingly expensive exercise for organizations.
It is.
So you're going to spend that money, you want to know that it's verified.
Yeah. And also that point about expensive, if you take a baseline, say a commitment to carbon neutrality or net zero, and you work out what the cost of that would be on a traditional offset strategy, for big companies, this is tens, if not hundreds of millions of pounds that they would have to be spending every year out of the door to maintain that position. So instead, think about this investment-led approach where you're seeing it as long-term, you're committed long-term. So invest in this stuff, build a future supply of credits from nature or technology that can give you the outcome that is right for your business.